video games are for nerds. But that doesn't mean we can't talk about them. That's why you're listening to The Week in Gaming, the only gaming podcast that breaks down the last 7 days and tears games apart from the inside. Ugh. So forget your worries, open your ears, and join Simon Miller and a co-host for the entertainment chatter you need. Also, screw Dark Souls.
Hello and welcome to The Week in Gaming. My name is Simon Miller and it's an absolute pleasure to have you join me here on this little video game podcast that drops once a week. I was about to say courtesy of the Simon Miller Podcast Network. That doesn't exist. I have this podcast, though, and I have a wrestling podcast. And if you'd like to listen to the both, you can. That one's called Simon Miller's Pro Wrestling Podcast. This one's called The Week in Gaming. That is all there is to it. As always, I'm joined by my man, Sam Bishop. Sam, how you doing today?
Yeah, doing good. Just getting by.
Indeed. And yeah, we're going to get into it. I mean, we had a little conversation before we started. I mean, Spider-Man was kind of the big thing that happened over the last couple of weeks. Shadow of the Tomb Raider came out on Friday. I played, as we talked about last week, I played a little bit of Shadow of the Tomb Raider. It certainly seems that no one cares about Tomb Raider again. I'm not trying to be horrible to Tomb Raider. I know a lot of people are still looking forward to it, and I actually think it's a pretty decent game from what I played. But it came out, and apparently the sales are 70% down on the 2013 reboot. Now, that could be, 2013 was a very different time for video games as they are today. But, I mean, it came in at number 2. Spider-Man was still number 1. Somehow, Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy is still number 4. I never understand that. But I guess the real issue, I don't want to say issue, is that so I'm guessing that it didn't outsell Rise of the Tomb Raider in its first week, and that only came out on Xbox One. So the fact this has come out...
No, it did outsell Rise.
I did? Right.
That was on Xbox, so that doesn't really count.
Well, no,
you know what I mean?
If it only just beats it, then it's... I don't know, the Tomb Raider's a weird one, because if you look at the history of the Tomb Raider games, this is kind of what happens, right? The first Tomb Raider came out, and everybody loved it, mostly because, for reasons we don't even talk about. And then Tomb Raider 2, I couldn't even tell you about Tomb Raider 2, because in my head, when that came out, everyone was kind of past it. And now they've rebooted it, and also, before we rebooted it in 2013, was there actually a good Tomb Raider game that everybody got up in arms about? I don't think there was.
No, I think it was more of the same, just Underworld, Ascendant, things like that. Just more of sort of throwaway titles, it seems, in the history of games.
Yeah, and now, there was one I actually quite liked. I can't remember which one it was, but the reboot came out in 2013. I thought it was pretty good. Again, I thought Rise was decent, and I like this one too, but it's kind of interesting that there always seems... Because it doesn't happen with Uncharted, right? I know it's a completely different series, and we're only on Uncharted 4, but if anything, I don't know sales figures here, I'm just going on... the feel of, kind of the buzz and what everyone is talking about. But like this, I don't necessarily use Twitter for this kind of thing. But when a big game comes out, like Spider-Man, for example, was all over my Twitter feed. If I wasn't paying attention, I couldn't get away from it. I don't see anybody talking about Shadow of the Tomb Raider. It's only been out a few days. I don't see any buzz about it. I don't see anybody getting excited about it or trying to... Yeah, I got nothing.
Yeah, it does seem that way because, like you said with Uncharted, I think with Uncharted, it was so story-driven and people cared more about the story. So, if you could play all 3, you've got to get the 4th. Whereas I feel like, for me at least, I play Tomb Raider, I'm not like, oh yeah, I really loved the narrative in Rise. I can't remember why I was in Rise. I just remember it was just a fun sort of throwaway shooter that I could deal with not having more of, you know what I mean?
No.
Whereas with Uncharted, when 4 came out, people had to have more of that. That might be one of the reasons, and I think just a lot of the reviews came out and they were very mixed. I've seen 4s, I've seen 9s. It seems to be more the lower end of the scale than it is the higher end. But yeah, it just seems to it's an odd one. It doesn't have. It seems Tomb Raider doesn't have the weight it had anymore, or if it ever had it.
Well, that's the question I wanted to talk about. Excuse me. Does it actually ever? Obviously, the first one was, but I don't know. I think Lara Croft almost surpassed the Tomb Raider brand, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's almost as if that is what more people know, just because of, it was one of the rare games at the time that had a woman front and center, which was important at the time, of course. But that's the kind that always surprises me, is that it seems like the game itself it never seems to click in the way, people put it on this kind of pedestal, Tomb Raider, but I'm not necessarily sure it deserves to be there. And again, I like all those games. As I always described, everything from the reboot has been the definition of an 8 out of 10 video game, but not in a bad way, in a good way. And yet, maybe that's the problem. Maybe, and again, I saw a lot of this with people criticizing it in some of the sort of, less pleasant reviews. But they said it doesn't do anything new. And it doesn't tick the kind of boxes that I wanted to tick. And for me, I was like, well, that's not the end of the world. That's not too bad. But maybe it is. Maybe it's just not what people want.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing now is what's going to happen to Lara Croft, because this is over, this series. You're not going to get another one in this Origin series. But unless you reboot it almost in exactly the same way, I really don't know where you're going to take it. Because I think Nathan Drake bowed out at the sort of right time for the adventure games, or action-adventure games sort of thing. But, yeah, what is Tomb Raider going to do?
Well, I mean, to me, you rack this up to like a brand new trilogy, really, and draw a line under it, right? Like what Rocksteady did with the Batman games. I think that's probably the best way to do it. And then, go work on something else, and then maybe sort of 5-6 years down the line, you can come back to it and say, I want to do this now. But no, absolutely, I don't think that there's any reason to make another game anytime soon, especially if the demand's not there for it.
Yeah, so they might make it entirely open world in the next one.
I hope, if anything, I hope there's a resurgence in games when we start going the other way.
Yeah, like, linear.
I'm bored of semi-open worlds. I'm bored of fully open worlds. I just want somebody to grab my hand and walk me down a corridor. Like we said last week, it's fine for stuff like Spider-Man and Batman, for lack of a set, or Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead Redemption. I understand all that, but I don't think something like Tomb Raider benefit. Like, I liked God of War a lot. But this semi-open world where you're kind of going back on yourself, I didn't necessarily think helped the game at all. I would have much rather it was level 1-1, level 1-2 and all that, because that's what I want from a game like that. And the fact that, 99% of these AAA games are heading in the direction, maybe that's what, maybe if Tomb Raider had come out and it was more of an old school experience in that sense, in its structure, more people would have been like, oh, fantastic, it feels old but new again and all that jazz.
Yeah, I think Uncharted wasn't bloated as well. I keep comparing it to Uncharted because I just think it does.
I think it's fair though. I think it's just like Saints Row and Grand Theft Auto to me.
Yeah, and it's just like Uncharted didn't have any of the now you need to stop this excellent story to go forage for some berries, and it's like, no, I don't want to forage for some berries. I want this story, and I feel like Tomb Raider had so much stuff bolted on that people do say they enjoyed, but I don't think they would have genuinely missed had it not been there. You know what I mean? People are just like, oh, I'm fine with the survival. But a lot of people are just like, why am I doing this? Why am I got all this extra stuff sort of weighing me down? Whereas Uncharted didn't have that. It stuck to what it knew well, which is these set pieces, and just kept you on a moving, ride through this blockbuster movie of a game. And that was what I think makes it a lot better.
Yeah, no, honestly, I feel that about a lot of games that we could mention. Zelda I throw in there as well. I don't want to get into a big discussion about that, but
you'd love to, but
yeah, but I've done it before, and I also don't think it's a bad video game. Again, it's just, I don't know. To me, this open world bubble or whatever it was has burst. It's not as exciting to me as it once was. I was never a huge. Well, I was at first. That's not true. But I just think someone's got to come along and make that kind of a decision where, again, we can. I think maybe we need a bit more variety and diverse. I'm talking about AAA games here, not the gaming sphere as a whole. I think the gaming sphere as a whole these days is far more interesting than it ever was. But there's still interest there. But yeah, these AAA games that all seem to follow this certain template. Look, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if we took that away, nothing would sell at all. I don't know. But I'd certainly like to see it. That's reminded me of something else I thought we had to talk about, and it's stolen away from my brain again. Well, it can't have been important. And the other stuff that I did want to talk about was all the Nintendo Direct stuff came out end of last week, beginning of this week, whenever it was. And look, there's a lot of stuff on there that I get people are excited about, but again, this is kind of stuff that's not really for me. Luigi's Mansion 3 I'm intrigued about. I like the first two Luigi's Mansions games, and I kind of sometimes think Nintendo, going what we're just talking about, I think sometimes Nintendo uses that to be a bit weird.
Yeah.
To come up with new ideas, which then they kind of copy-paste into whatever the next Mario game is. I think they're well aware that a Luigi's Mansion is not going to sell as well as a Super Mario Odyssey. So they kind of feel they can be a bit more Nintendo with it and make it quirky and weird. And the fact it's coming out on Switch and not like on I know the 3DS is kind of old hat these days. But I don't know. There's something, we don't know anything. Even said Luigi's Mansion 3 working title. So who knows what the hell it's going to be called. But I like that. I like to see what they're going to do with it. I think it'd be interesting. I thought Luigi was dead So, you know, what we do there, I don't know. And the other two games, I mean, there was more, but that's what I wanted to talk about. Yoshi's Crafted World and Animal Crossing, which are both coming to Switch.
Yeah.
When I worked at Video Gamer, I did a review of one of the Yoshi games on 3DS, and I literally fell asleep playing it. It was the most boring, and I understand why. It wasn't aimed at somebody like me, but still, I can only comment on it from what, you know, from what I felt. But yeah, it was one of the most dull video games I've ever played in my life. So
the thing is, like, you like Nintendo games.
I love Nintendo games.
It's not exactly like you were always going to go in and you were always going to hate it. It's still like
no, that's why it's
even for a Nintendo fan.
Yeah, it just didn't do anything, and the fact it was called Woolly World or whatever just made it even worse. Because oh man, even the title's weighing me down. Like even the title is exhausting me. So yeah. Why did they fall? My point is, why did they fallen into this pattern now that they think this is what Yoshi games to be? These quaint, quiet, laid-back experiences. I'm like, I don't necessarily. I don't know. They always look nice and they always look pretty, but yeah, I find them all a little bit dull.
Yeah, you want the Wolfenstein of Yoshi games.
Do you remember what was it? What was the great Yoshi game back in the day called? Yoshi's Island, right?
I've never played one.
Well, it was great. It was a Mario game with Yoshi in it. I mean, I've just got the trailer on now to remember. And I like platforming games. And again, it looks really nice, and Yoshi looks like he's made out of wool. Again, which is nice, but I just feel like it's going to go the pace of, you know, like one of those trains that you ride at Legoland. And after an hour, I'll be like, I can't play this. It's just too slow. And I get that it's cute and it's lovely and people are going to enjoy it, but I don't know. It's one of those games that, to me, has gone backwards in terms of creativity.
Yeah.
You're not into Yoshi, are you, Sam? It's not your thing.
Not really. I don't know whether it sounds like I've switched off my brain. Just like,
Talk to me about Animal Crossing Switch then, because before I let my feelings known, where are you on the Animal Crossing series? Because, again, going back to when I said that I didn't hear anyone talking about Tomb Raider, my word, was it impossible to know. You know, there's no way I wouldn't have known that Animal Crossing for Switch had been announced, because everybody went nuts.
Yeah, I love that Animal Crossing exists. I tried it once because I wanted to give it a go, but it's not for me. But it's a game I love that it exists. I love that it's there, and I think it's a perfect fit for Switch as well. Because you can just be on the train and just sort of work for that horrendous capitalist, what's he called, Mr.
Tom Nook.
Tom Nook, yeah. And you could work for that guy and, you know, get in debt and buy a house and do all the things you do in real life, but a bit cuter. And yeah, that's the perfect thing for the Switch, and I think, I'm excited that Animal Crossing fans are excited for it.
Yeah, well, they definitely are excited for it. You can't argue with that.
You can't miss that.
I never understand those games either. Like, it's just. I tried to play the one on the GameCube. That's the one that everyone kind of wanted to play, isn't it? That's the first one I fell into anyway, and it was just like. It was like, I don't know. I can't even explain. I'm like you. I don't mind that they exist. I'm happy. Clearly they have a market, and Nintendo wouldn't be investing money to bring it to Switch if they didn't know that people were going to enjoy it. But with that said, when I played it, it was like, what? I just don't get it. I don't understand what I'm trying to achieve here. As you said, Tom Nook is like he's like a slave driver almost. The point, you know, he tries to lock you into insane deals that just so you could get your house going. It's just, oh man, yeah. I don't know. Look, I'm happy for it, but you know, I watched all the stuff they released for it, and I tried to think, okay, you know, let me get talking about the whole Tomb Raider thing again. What's different about this one? I don't understand what's different. I don't understand what's changed. Apart from the fact you can now play it on your Switch and it will have new things to do and a new environment or whatever.
And I mean, there'll probably be new social elements as well. A bit, because obviously nobody played the Wii U, so nobody had friends on the Wii U. I don't even know if there was one on the Wii U.
I don't think there was. I mean, that's why I think people got so excited about this one. But
okay, cool. So
I don't know though.
People just liking the fact that it's the first home console one for ages, but you could also take it on the go.
Amiibo Festival came out on the Wii U. I don't know what that is, but if you want to buy it, it's £5.35.
Mental.
So there you go. I have no idea what that is. But I think that's what it is, right? It's just so people... It's mini games. Of course it's mini games. I think it's just, so people can get excited about taking it on the go.
And And also, I mean, I think they're going to build upon the elements they introduced in the mobile phone version. I can't remember what that's called. But they probably use that as a testing ground, see what elements people liked and stuff, and then put that in a full paid game. And then, obviously flesh it out a lot more.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the big stuff coming from Nintendo. I know they announced other stuff. It's weird, really, isn't it? Because what do they have coming out end of the year? I mean, Fortnite's obviously on it, but I mean, they don't have any other games, do they, this year, Nintendo? Or am I missing
Smash
something?
and Mario Party, I think that's it.
Oh, Smash this year? I thought Smash was next year.
I thought it was December.
It probably is. Again, Smash Brothers is not one that I follow in any sense. Smash Brothers is coming out. I have absolutely no idea because the internet is rubbish. Yeah, 7th of December. You're right. Okay, well that's massive for the Nintendo fans. Then fair enough. I take it back. All right, so that's basically everything. Again, it's funny. It's actually quieter in gaming than I was expecting at the moment. I know that Red Dead Redemption 2 is only a couple of weeks away, so maybe people are sort of terrified about that. FIFA 19 obviously comes out soon too. But yeah, there's not. I mean, I guess Call of Duty. Did you play the Call of Duty beta?
No, I wanted to. It looked interesting, but I didn't want to enough to look for a code. So. Yeah,
well, I played some of it, and I do actually think there's a lot of potential. I think I mentioned this last week as well, but I do think there's a lot of potential in the blackout mode. It just feels, well, it feels more old school, but not in a bad way. Like, it actually feels like you can be successful, and it feels like you can win.
Without any of that dabbing and building and not all that nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. It's your more stereotypical focused AAA shooter that just happens to take those elements on and tries to fashion a mode around it. So I think that it could be interesting. I certainly want to play more. Obviously, the problem with Call of Duty in 2018 and probably forever is the community, which is difficult and toxic, and you need to just never use your microphone on those games ever, and that is a shame. And it would be good if more was being done about that. Like I was reading the other day, because I don't play Rainbow Six Siege, but I was reading about how they tried to introduce automated systems that if you do use bad language, you will get banned once for I think 30 minutes, and if you do it again, you get banned twice for 2 hours, and your third ban is 2 hours too. And then if they think you've done it more than that, they'll try and ban you properly. And I understand a system like that is controversial and there's going to be kinks, and some people are going to say that it alienates free speech. But in terms of how bad some video games can be, I actually think I support that. I do support that stuff. There's no two ways about it, because it's all well and good saying, oh, well, I should be able to say whatever you want. Well, yes and no. If someone's actually trying to enjoy a video game experience and you're there spouting off and you're taking their fun away, then, that's a whole different kettle of fish. Yeah,
and it's also like it's their game. Like, you could be able to say what you want and then they'll ban you. It's freedom of speech, not freedom of consequences. You're more than welcome to tell people to fuck off, and then you'll get banned for it, and then that's it. That's your prerogative.
No, that's exactly that. So because my thing is that I'd be more likely to play Call of Duty more if I knew I didn't have to put up with that, bollocks.
Yeah.
But there's just no way. There's no way to get around it, and it absolutely sucks. So other than that, though, I've been playing Shadow of the Tomb Raider a little bit, nowhere near as much that I could probably talk about it. What about you, Sam? You been playing anything?
Well, I did play Shadow of the Tomb Raider, but I think we talked a little bit about that last week. But either way, I thought it was proper 7 out of 10. More of the same, but not in as much of a good way as you'd probably think. And other than that, I've been playing the first Ni no Kuni because I loved the second Ni no Kuni, so I thought I'd go back and play the first. And it is gorgeous. Like, it's on the PS3, but you can't tell. It's so good. So yeah, that's been me.
Why did you go back to just because you like the second one so much and you wanted more of it?
Yeah, and it's like I've heard it hasn't aged badly. It's not one of those games when you go back like going back from Oblivion to Morrowind or vice versa, or to Skyrim and to Oblivion or something like that. That's like tough because they've aged badly. But this is just different. It's not a bad age, and it still looks fantastic because it's got Studio Ghibli or whatever they're called. So yeah, it's still fantastic, still holds up, and yeah, I'm going to be sinking a lot of hours into that because it's not a short game.
Now, they're massive, right? We're talking like 50 hours plus.
Yeah.
Oh man, I just don't think I could do it. I don't think I could do it these days. Also, I think I've just worn myself out on JRPGs and playing them too much as I was a kid. So these days, I don't.
So go on.
Like I said, these are it's not something that I do. It's just not something I can put time or effort into, and I don't even feel like I'm missing out. Like I said, I really have become, the guy that just wants to play short. Well, 8 hours is fine, But anything above that, the idea is just too much. I'm an old man. That's the problem. I got old, and now I just want nice, easy, accessible games thrown at my face.
Yeah, I like to pepper my RPGs with many, many short games in between because I don't want to go from 50-hour experience to 50-hour experience. Like people are just like, oh yeah, I played Witcher 3, then I played Skyrim, then I'm playing. It's just like, how? Why? It's so all of them are so long and so time consuming. But yeah,
but that's also ties into what we were talking earlier in terms of the whole open. That's why they're doing it, because they create these open worlds, and then you have to fill the open world with stuff. And that doesn't necessarily work, if that makes sense. Like again, it seems to be backwards developing for me to a certain extent. Is that people feel like, okay, well, we've got to follow this trend or whatever you want to call open worlds these days, and then they realize we've got to fill it with stuff, and then that pushes it up to 20 hours, 30 hours, 40 hours. I just don't think that it's a video game. Like there shouldn't just be one be all and end all. I don't know. That's why a game like Ni no Kuni is just way too much for me, way too intimidating, it just scares the crap out of me.
Yeah, I like that it's got an easy mode, so you can. But I think a lot of games should have that. So
I put all games on easy, honestly. Even Spider-Man, I was like, I just don't need the challenge. That's not what I'm looking for. I'd much rather just enjoy it for what it is, and I'll still die a couple of times because I'm crap. But yeah, I don't know. My gaming attitudes have changed, and maybe that's another issue that as generations grow up, and obviously. Video games are still relatively new in the grand scheme of things. But as we, get older and we shift, where does that kind of... Because there was a time, obviously, where every game was 8 to 10 hours, and it was a platform, or, that was the limitations of the technology at the time. But as that generation moves forward, I don't know, I'm intrigued to see... Because, again, I am not really necessarily 100% their target market anymore. I probably just fall outside of it. Where they're much more interested in sort of the early 20-year-olds and it's like Assassin's Creed Gold Odyssey, right? That just went gold. I think 24 hours ago, whenever it was. Yeah. And those games especially epitomise all of this to me. And I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. I am going to try and play Odyssey to see if I can finally get into an Assassin's Creed game, which I haven't been able to done ever. I don't like any of them, but they are almost where this wash, rinse, repeat. All Ubisoft games. Someone once said to me that all Ubisoft games feel like they've fallen off a production line, and I completely understand. I understand what they mean. It's like we change the environment, but whatever technique or structure we have around it will just keep going in that direction. That's why I find them. That's why I find them so dull. Which is why. The fact that Odyssey comes out a year after Origins makes me... I understand it's got a massive team and they changed things up. And this one's going to be more RPG. And, it's going to be in... it's Egypt, isn't it? This one? Or was that last year's
Egypt
one?
was last one, and this is Greece.
Greece, right. So, yeah, this is Greece. And I bet you it feels exactly like that one. However, there'll be some Greek stuff in it.
Yeah.
I don't think I want that anymore.
Case too. And the thing that turns me off about it is just like... The Origins took 2 years out, and it felt like that.
Yeah, that was right.
It was like Origins 2, and I'm like, oh, that's the problem that you had before. Like the feeling like you've just made an iterative thing rather than a unique product, and that's why I feel like I've played Odyssey already. I haven't, but it feels like that.
But you probably have, though, right? I mean, you probably have, and I think. I don't know. I think that does tie into this open world thing, because when you've got not an infinite space, but you've got a giant space, where are the limitations? When do you have to think, oh, maybe we shouldn't put 100 feathers to find in a world? Like maybe that's not the best thing to do, or maybe that doesn't offer, technically a good experience for gamers. Like I don't know. I sound like an old cranky man. It's just. I don't know. I don't know what... I think the thing that really hit home for me is that someone said to me, what games do you want to play this year? And I think, apart from Red Dead, there aren't that many on my list. I will play other ones just for the experience and to see what I think about them. But there isn't any that, sort of really stand out as must-plays. And at this time of the year, I find that surprising, because usually there's something.
Yeah, that's the same with me aside from Spyro, really. And because the same reason I'm excited for Spyro is because I'm pretty much guaranteed, unless they ruin the port, which I don't think they'll do, that I'm guaranteed that I've got an invested interest. Whereas the rest of the games coming up, I'm just like, I could take or leave them. What else? I might play them. There's nothing I'm like, yes,
No, I'm the same, and I think maybe it's a weird thing to say, but I kind of, this is bizarre, but I kind of miss the 3DS being as prevalent as it once was.
Yeah.
Like there used to be loads of cool, quirky games that would always come out for the 3DS, and I understand why it's not a priority for Nintendo anymore, because they've essentially got a Nintendo Portable in the Switch. Like, that is the evolution of both their home console and their portable consoles. And it's hard to say they got it wrong, because the Nintendo Switch is smashing it, and it's an incredible machine that everybody loves. But with that said, you know, we could have got to the end of the year. Maybe we could have got another, you know, sort of cool Zelda title or a cool Mario title, or, you know, one of these offshoots. Like, you know, one of my favorite games that ever came out over the last few years was A Link Between Worlds on 3DS. I just thought it was wonderful. And I get it was just an extension of A Link to the Past, but it didn't matter. And I played that game throughout this time, you know, this time of year into the new year when it did get released. And now I feel like we've kind of stepped away from that a little bit, and you've got PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch, and you lack. Maybe I do think this. Maybe I do think we're lacking more quirky games, unless you've got like a PC.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the Switch has become a home for really good indies. I've found a lot of games I really like, not because they've been on Switch exclusively, but because I've sort of gave them more of a chance on Switch. Because I don't know why, it's just playing indie games on the Switch is just a bit more appealing than playing them, you know, on the PS4 or whatever. Because you could play them on the go and Oxenfree and things that I've discovered on the Switch. And yeah, that's been really good to find some different games. But like a lot of the times, like you say, you feel like you're getting a new Battlefield and you're getting a new Call of Duty and you're getting a new Red Dead, but that's all stuff we've seen before.
Yeah.
And that's why things like Starfield from Bethesda are looking so enticing, because it's just like that's totally new and it's got a lot of money behind it, rather than sort of just being, because a lot of AAA developers obviously go with like, it's like films, right? They're bringing out a new Predator film, despite Predator needing no new films at all, because it's just like you're guaranteed to get money in if you put Predator in the title, as opposed to coming up with a new action film.
No, it's true.
And I think it's just the same with the games industry. It's just a shame though, because new and lovely experiences shouldn't be just reserved for indies. You know what I mean? So
no, exactly. You want those. I mean, you know, Starfield could come out and sell 2 copies, and then we'll all go, "Oh, that was stupid, wasn't it?" And they'll just make Fallout and Elder Scrolls for the rest of the days. And so I'm not saying I don't understand sequel culture. You know, I absolutely do. But I do feel like there's a lack of. So even something like Anthem, like I know Anthem's a brand new game, but it doesn't excite me because it just follows the usual trend that I would have expected anyway. And which is weird because BioWare used to be one of my favourite developers, and now when Anthem comes out, I probably won't even play it.
Yeah, it doesn't look very BioWare apart from the third-person perspective, really. It doesn't look very story-heavy, and maybe that's just because they've not advertised that very well. But yeah, it doesn't feel very BioWare to me, Anthem.
No, I don't get. I mean, I know there needs to be more information out there, and we've still got loads of time before we can figure it out. But yeah, like I don't. I get it. Mass Effect, did not do well, so they probably feel like they need to head in a different direction. But yeah, I'm not massively. I'm just not excited about it. I'm just not. That's the truth of the matter. I'm not. It means nothing.
and what have you been playing anyway?
I literally, honestly, I was meant to play Shadow of the Tomb Raider this week, and I didn't get around to it just because life and medical and injuries and all that kind of nonsense. So I played more mobile games I've already talked about, and I shall not talk about again. And I played more Spider-Man. Like I said, I'm still doing that playthrough on my channel. You go to youtube.com/TheMetaReport to get all the content there. I am enjoying it. Like, there's a lot that goes over my head because I'm not a big Spider-Man guy, but I do think it's a fun experience. Like, I really do. And, tying into what we talked about today, I do think it benefits from an open world, and that makes it more exciting. Yeah,
you're not converted for Batman Spider-Man then?
Nah, Batman will always be. I want to know what Rocksteady's doing. Rocksteady's working on something, and everyone says they want a Superman game. Nah, screw that. Just make another Batman game. Who cares? Stick to what you know. It's been long enough. I mean, Arkham Knight came out in 2014, 15, whenever it was. Loads of time. Enough time has passed that I'd be up. I'd be up for that. Given as well that it has actually. There's been Spider-Man came out and there's been a bit of a dip. I did go on my Twitter at Simon316 and I asked you for some gaming questions. Which we do every now and then, or we do every week on Simon's Pro Wrestling Podcast. And just as another segue, I am going to be giving away a few copies of Fire Pro Wrestling on the PS4 on Simon's Pro Wrestling Podcast, and that ties into games. So make sure you tune in on Wednesday to talk about that, or see how you can win that. There's loads of rules. Anyway, I got a few questions, and I thought I'd answer them. The first one, I don't think Sam or I can answer. Maybe you can, Sam. I don't know. Ryan Williams, top 5 playable characters you want in Smash Brothers Ultimate. I don't care. Captain Falcon's in there, Zelda's in there, that's all good with me.
couldn't think of one.
No, I couldn't think of
Falcon's
one.
the big one for me.
But who's not in there? I thought the whole point was everybody was in there already.
Yeah, but not everyone like in the world. A lot of people want Goku. I'd like Judge Dredd. That would be pretty cool. Yeah, but that's just Falcon, right?
But that's also just throwing money out the window, isn't it? Nintendo don't spend money. They're not going to go get Judge Dredd licensing.
Yeah. Well, they're Rebellion. Like, they're not probably too stingy, are they?
I don't know. I think Rebellion probably needs some money. No, I'm joking. No, I'm not the man to ask about that because I don't play Smash.
All of the Avengers.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, everyone in Marvel and DC, so we can have Marvel versus DC and break the world.
Yeah.
I'll go. Thoughts on the currently booming trend of HD remasters of old games? It doesn't really feel much of a trend anymore. I mean, now it just kind of feels like you get smart ones. I don't like Crash Bandicoot, but I think it's already proven that it wasn't a stupid idea. So I wouldn't call it a trend. I would just call it, that's just how video games work. Because of technology and the way that old games get left behind, if you don't update them, then they are dead. Unless you're going to keep old consoles, which a lot of people don't do.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's good. If you don't want it, just don't play it. And I don't think a lot of these studios are being diverted from doing newer games, if you know what I mean. It's not like you're sacrificing a new game for this. I think you get people like, is it Blue something that made Shadow of the Colossus remake? And like they make remakes, and that's good. I'm glad that they're doing that. And if they weren't doing that, then someone might do it worse. And I'm glad that they're doing things like Shadow of the Colossus and Crash Bandicoot, because then new audiences could enjoy it, and it's really good. And like, why would you not want people to be like coming on board and enjoying the games that you love, but in 2018 as opposed to 94 or whatever?
Especially with something like Shadow of the Colossus, which, you know, gameplay-wise has never aged. The only problem was the technical stuff. You need to have that technical upgrade to ensure that if people do want to play, or, you know, it is going to be remembered that that's the only thing that you can do.
Yeah, I love it. So more of it.
Yeah, me too. I agree. And even if games I don't like, well, I eventually think that hopefully, you know, something I do like will come around. Yeah. Phil Nutzita III, which is an amazing name. Have you played, or what's your opinion on Fire Pro Wrestling World? I haven't played it. I mean, I'm going to play it now, which ties into my competition, which we'll talk about on Wednesday. But no, and I'm guessing you haven't either, Sam.
No.
I imagine. Chavoshi, what game would you absolutely love a modern day sequel to, and why? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, everything gets a sequel nowadays.
I'd really like Sly Raccoon and Ratchet and Clank.
You'll probably get those.
Ratchet and Clank was a remake of the first game, that one that came out in 2016. So
Yeah.
I'd actually like a sequel, and that would be cool.
Okay, RC Pro Match. There you go. Yeah, I love RC Pro. RC Pro. And why? Because it's a really crappy rare game from back in the day that I loved and no one else does. So I'd be the only person to buy a copy, and it would be funny. What game developer do you think could do justice to a Superman game, and what would be your own ideas on how to make a Superman game? Well, I think we're both going to say Rocksteady. I
can't think of anyone else who could really nail it.
No, and my thing with Superman is always to what we kind of hinted at earlier. You throw the idea of video games out the window, and this is where actually open world does come into it, and you literally create the entire world, and you let Superman just go and do whatever he wants, and people go, well, how does he die? The point is, he doesn't die. He's Superman. It's like Animal Crossing. There you go. It's the superhero version of Animal Crossing. You just be Superman, and you win all the time. But the great thing is you're Superman, so it's all good. You don't game it. Like in that stupid last game EA made, Superman the city had a health bar. And if the health bar got to 0, Superman died. What the fuck? Like, none of that bullshit. Just, just be Superman and you win. Sweet.
Yeah, I just think, like, because he could fly, that's such a problem. Because,
exactly.
With Spider-Man, you could put him in Manhattan and then there's water. And it's like, oh no, I can't get past water. So you can keep him there. But, like, unless you put invisible walls in, which is lame, like you say, you're going to have to create the whole world. And then you can't do that. So he's a really hard guy to put in a video game. Make him fly through rings. That would be good.
Yeah. I think you get a really bad frame rate. And then, make him fly through rings and never explain what the hell the rings are for. I think that's a really good idea. I'm going to vote for that one. What the fuck was that game? SJB Photography. Probably just advertised that guy's business. Is there any game from your early years in gaming that you'd like to see remastered? Or is there? We've done that. Sorry, SJB. I haven't read these questions before, and we've done that. Lillian Mondero, what new releases are you most looking forward to before the end of the year? Well, we touched on that a little bit. Honestly, unless I'm missing something, I don't think I am, because I swear I looked the other day, it's just Red Dead. That's it for me. Red Dead is the last game I want to play this year. Again, I will play other games, but there's nothing that excites me as much as that.
Yeah, mine's Spyro, and I'm interested in Fallout New Vegas, but I'm not like excited for it in the sense that I'll get it definitely, because I'm not sure I will.
Do you mean 76?
Yeah, I'm interested in it though, to see what it is and how it does and whether people like what it's doing.
Yeah. I just don't. I'd always loved the idea of an MMO, right? I always loved the idea, but every time I sat down to play, I was like, "This is guff." Like, it wasn't for me at all.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to give it more time. I don't know. Zoe Clark, what is your favourite genre and why?
Genre of games.
Yeah. I mean, I like. What game do I want to play more? A game that I could play for the rest of my life is God of War 2. So it's not my favourite game ever, but I mean that kind of style game. It's not going to be the best, not going to be the worst. So I would say whatever you want to call that, action, adventure, it's a bit of platforming, beat 'em up, whatever. That kind of thing, and then give me Mario Kart as well, and I'll be happy.
Yeah, I would go with narrative games. It's a bit of a cop-out answer, but with things like Life is Strange,
yeah.
Just indie games, usually with a very good story and very short. Yep, every day of the week.
Yeah, no, I think so. Anything that gets my brain working as well, that fascinates me, that kind of surprise is what I'm all about.
Yeah.
My man Tom Anson, when was the last time you were truly impressed by a game piece of hardware? Well, I'm a big advocate for VR. I think if they could just sort VR out in terms of making it more accessible and not costing the bank and selling it to people in the right way, I think VR would be a wonderful addition to gaming forever. I think it's great. I don't think they've done that, but yes, I would. That really. Well, first time I wore it, I was genuinely like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I can see a future.
Yeah, I'm going to build on that and say, remember Farpoint with that gun controller?
Yeah.
That was fantastic. That was really good. Because obviously the whole fantasy is like the guns, right? The guns are one of the things that work well, if not the best thing that works in VR. And to have something that feels like an assault rifle and then you're actually firing it and you're covering by actually using cover, so good. Really good.
Yeah. No, I honestly, I like things like that. And I think that the important thing today is to make sure that these things don't have to be the be-all and end-all, like motion control. Just find a way to make them work with the setup we've already got. And I felt like VR had the potential to do that, but we never capitalised on it.
Yeah.
Well, we still could. It's still early day. I don't think it's dead by any stretch of the imagination. Simon Hartstone, what's your opinion of Battle Royale modes and the fact that every game is now trying to squeeze in a Battle Royale mode to their multiplayer, like COD, Battlefield, and even Red Dead 2 is supposed to have one? I'm all right with it. I honestly, when some good idea comes along, I want everybody to jump on the bandwagon because I want to see what they can do with it. I always say this. I can't believe that more people didn't try and integrate active reload into their shooters because it was an amazing way to make a boring mechanic fun. And, reloading became a highlight of the game, which was nonsense. There's obviously a tipping point and a saturation point, but given that right now the only two you can really play are PUBG and Fortnite, I think COD, Battlefield, and Red Dead should absolutely be trying to get a piece of that pie. If it works, great, we can carry on. If it fails, what difference does it make? Because all of those games have so much more content there. If they were just coming out and it was just a COD Battle Royale, then we're going in the wrong direction and we're probably being a bit more exploitative than we need to be. But the current approach, I got no problem with it at all, and I look forward to seeing what they can all do.
Yeah, and people seem to forget that nobody's like the first-person mode on PUBG is just a tacked-on first-person mode. Nobody has done a first-person committed Battle Royale game, and you've got two coming along at once, or not at the same time, but with Battlefield and Call of Duty, that's offering something that nobody's done before, which is a first-person specialist Battle Royale. So that'll be really interesting because it changes the way you view the world. Like, because obviously Fortnite, you can be in cover and just watch around you, but when you have it more up close and personal with the first person, that changes the whole dynamic of the match.
Yeah, I think especially Rockstar. Rockstar rarely get things wrong. Doesn't mean they always get it right, but they rarely get things wrong. So I'm intrigued to see what they do, and by Red Dead in general. Mr. Hugo, how many retro gaming consoles do you own? I hope that you do better than me here. I'm not really much of a collector. I mean, I've got a Game Boy Advance. I've got a SNES. I've got the minis, the NES and the SNES Mini. It probably doesn't count. But that's it for me. I'm not really a retro kind of a dude. I usually use the virtual console and things like that to get my fix.
Yeah, I have a lot, but it's just one of those things where I tried to have them all out at once, but it's just way too many wires to connect at one time, and you can only really play one at a time, really, because as much as people say they're retro gamers, most of the time they're probably playing their PS4 or Xbox One. And yeah, they're sort of all up in the loft now for like I got my PS3 down, for example, when I'm playing Ni no Kuni. So I have them, but I don't really play them regularly because I don't think a lot of people do as much as they claim to be retro fans, you know?
Yeah, no, I'm very much a sell and move on kind of a guy, which is why I like remasters. I just do. This is how I see it. Daniel West, are you still playing Mario Tennis? Yes. Of course I am. I love that game. It's one of my favourite games in the year. Jackson, what is your favourite mod for any game and why? I'm not a mod guy. I don't have the only kind of mod I ever used to do were not even mods, but I guess they were like whatever the precursor to mods would be, but like big head mode that Rare put in GoldenEye. Those kinds of things were from. That's not a mod. That's more like a secret thing. But no, I never got into modding ever. I don't really understand it, if I'm completely honest. Happy that it exists, but yeah, not for me.
Yeah, it's I'm not a PC dude until very recently, and even then mods are like, I feel like, the old guy who's like, how do I even install these? So I just don't bother.
No, I'm the same. Mike the Death Grunty, definitely your real name. What's a game everyone says is shit, but you absolutely love? My problem is that I've only got the other way around, and my answer is always Dark Souls, which is not a good video game and is bollocks. But I don't think there's a bad video game that I love. No, I don't think so. Sam, I'll put it in your court.
No, it's a lot of games that I'm a bit hipster about not liking.
But, right.
Yeah, I can't think of any that are like trash, but I don't think they're trash. No,
it's a hard one. Yeah, it's a hard one. Shane Battams, what games would you say are the most underrated, and what game is the most overrated? Well, Dark Souls again. Although I'll be a bit more controversial. I don't like the Half-Life games either. I don't know. I understand and respect what they did, but when I finally got around to play them, which wasn't so far after their big boom, it lost on me entirely. So I definitely put Half-Life in there. In terms of underrated, I mean, it's difficult because I don't follow, I don't know. I can't think of anything I've played that nobody else hasn't even liked a little bit. I mean, back in the day, the fact I can't even remember the name, I think sums it up, but I did like that. What was that Capcom game that was all based on the jetpack?
Oh, Dark Void?
Yeah, I like Dark Void. But again, I wouldn't say that I love Dark Void. I would say if someone gave it a 6, I'd be like, yeah, probably. But I just personally thought it was quite enjoyable.
Yeah, I think underrated I'd go with Ghosts, because whenever anyone talks about Call of Duty Ghosts, they hate it. Out, like, it's the worst game ever. I hate it. I thought it was all right. I thought it should more Call of Duty. I was fine with that. I did play the campaign, admittedly, but I just went online. I was like, yeah, this is more Call of Duty. I didn't really see what was wrong with it.
Yeah. Not
that I'm like, that's so good. It's just like, I don't see how it's that awful. And overrated, it would have to be Last of Us. Totally.
I love them. I like that because I wouldn't agree. That game is brilliant. That's why it's brilliant, because it divides people. James Barnes, imagine you were creating your ultimate hybrid game. You have to pick the story, gameplay, and art direction from 3 separate games. What games would you pick for each category and why? Well, my art direction is coming straight from Gears of War because I love the art direction from Gears of War. The gameplay is going to come from Zelda, old school Zelda, like proper old school Zelda games. And the story, Naughty Dog can write the story, because I like the way Naughty Dogs write stories. That was easy. Your turn, Sam.
Art direction is going to come from BioShock.
Nice.
Gameplay is going to come from Gears of War.
Yes, it is.
And the story is going to come from Fulbright, but I'm not sure how that's going to work.
Yeah, that's going to be... You got the most interesting game ever. Oh, I love it. I pushed a button and lost all my questions. Sanford May, should Gears 5 strip multiplayer back down to the core modes and mechanics of the original game, the stark simplicity that made the franchise a revolution in console multiplayer? Probably, but I still think you can do that in the Gears, that you just have to, work it so that it falls under those, boundaries for you. You can still play Gears simply, but I will admit that they have gone crazy with it. I think Gears 5 should be brand new in every sense. I think Gears... I love Gears. I love it. It's one of my favourite games ever. But I think that it's time for a rebranding across the board. So that's what I would do.
Yeah, I don't think you need to strip multiplayer down, to be honest. I think because the more modes you have, the better, really. Like, you can just have stuff that's like more old school, and you can have the newer stuff, and you can keep in, because I really like the skins and stuff that you get now. Obviously, microtransactions. But like, it's just that's going to be a modern reality, right? But yeah, no, it's all good now, and I really enjoy it as it is now. I don't remember it being too different. Then again, I had a huge gap of not playing it, so it's not like I came in from the old ones and then I was like, oh, this has changed. But yeah, just more of that would be good.
Yeah, no, I agree. I do think it needs a change. But I think the multiplayer is fine. That's the one thing that's good about it. Woken Forest, talk about the no rule mode on FIFA 19. I think it's brilliant, and I can't wait to play it. Done.
Cool. Right. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it is really good. It's just like I swear you could do that before, just go into the menus, but I guess it's its own mode now. But yeah, no, really good because I'm a horrendously dirty player anyway, so it'll be good to hack people away and not get booked for it.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. Mighty Brody, which video game made you break or almost break a controller? Well, it didn't make me break It didn't make me break a controller, but Final Fantasy X I thought was so shit. I just ejected the disc and snapped it in two. I wasn't even stressed. I was like, I don't want this. You're dead. So I just killed that game. Absolute bollocks.
Yeah, I mean, I've broken a lot of controllers over my years. Mostly FIFA, but also Bloodborne. Dark Souls, I don't think I've broken. Obviously, probably a few missing plastic pieces within the console, within the controller, probably. But yeah, FIFA's the main one, just because it's just so easy to get aggravated with FIFA.
Oh man, that graph summed up FIFA brilliantly. When it had like when you lose in FIFA, 99% like it was bullshit. Sorry, 99% bullshit, 1% your fault. It sums it up personally. Always like this question because it's always easy. Scott Huff, what are your personal top 3 games of all time? I mean, they change all the time, but my go-tos are always Zelda, Ocarina of Time, Shadow of the Colossus. And then you can throw one of loads in there, but we'll throw in Batman Arkham Knight for today.
Yeah, mine's BioShock, Danganronpa, and Beyond Two Souls.
Yeah, but they're interchangeable. But they're all the ones. Jake Furlong, is Destiny 2 worth Is Destiny 2 worth the purchase to play? Well, I hate Destiny, so I'm going to say no. But maybe Sam will argue otherwise.
Yeah, I played Destiny 2 when it came out, and then when it got to the point where there was no more content and it was just doing the same grind, that's when I stopped, because that's just not for me. But if you like the fact that if you like Destiny systems enough to put up with the fact that you're really going to be replaying a lot of content and then doing strikes and raids and stuff like that, with a very short story, and obviously Forsaken's now out, then yeah, go for it. I mean, I'd probably try around a friend's house first, because if you're like, oh, this shooting's fun and I wouldn't mind doing this for hours upon hours, then sure, go for it.
I think you have to treat it like it's your social night out and you've got a bunch of mates to play it. Otherwise, don't even bother.
Yeah, don't play on your own. Just do not.
It's just horrendous. And the final one, which I've lost, there it is, I like this one. Dave Hope, what was the toughest end-level baddie you ever had to defeat? For me, it was there's 2, actually. It was Beyond Good and Evil, when they inverted the controls. So you actually had to finish the boss by turning the controller upside down, which was an absolute nightmare. And I got so frustrated. And the other one was in the last baddie of Chronicle, is you have to go through and take down every single boss you've already faced. And then, when you get through all of that, you've got to beat another boss. And by that point, you've got nothing left and you die. I never was able to do it. I've watched people on YouTube do it. I don't know how they've done it. It's absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, those 2 are my nightmares.
Yeah, I've got 2. I remember Gears of War's Ram.
Oh, man, that sucked as well, yeah. That was so bad.
Sucked. And also, not difficult, but just bad, the Uncharted 2 one.
Oh, in the forest. Oh, my gosh, it's fucking awful.
But I think the worst, now hear me out, the worst is Ukulele, right? Because at the end of Ukulele, you've got a boss with like 7 phases. Oh. And like, they're not particularly hard, but like, obviously I died on the 7th one. And I was like, I'm not doing that again. And I turned it off. And I was like, that's it. The game's finished. I'm not replaying 7 phases of a boss again. Like, it wasn't particularly hard, but I just don't approve of that at all. That is slimy. That is.
Honestly, man, between you and me, boss fights to me in the modern day are out of touch or whatever. They just do not work. I do not like them at all.
Yeah,
don't like them. Kill
more boss fights.
Yeah, kill all boss fights. I always, every time I say that, I get one person come at me on Twitter, go, meh. I don't know, how have you even heard me say this? But they always do, and that's what I think. I don't like it. Sorry, that's just me. Right, on that note, I think we will start to wrap things up. What is coming out for next week? something is out in the next 12. Oh, FIFA's coming out. That's what it is. I will get FIFA. I always get FIFA. So I'll make sure I get FIFA. We'll have a big, boring nerd chat about football, but everyone loves that. So we'll do that. And I do want to play that no rules mode. I think that no rules mode sounds all right, man. I'm intrigued by it.
What else is coming out?
I swear that something else coming out at the end of September, but I can't think at the top of my head.
Nintendo Switch Online, yeah.
Well, I mean, I was reading about that. That actually sounds quite good. I think it sounds very fair. Their model, like it's cheap as chips. You can't. I think we talked about that last week as well. I got no problem with it whatsoever. So I don't mind that. And otherwise it's just sort of Dragon Ball FighterZ, Towerfall, Life is Strange 2 Episode 1. A lot of people looking forward to that. Valkyria Chronicles 4. And then we move into Red Dead time. Oh, Forza Horizon 4 comes out as well. That could be interesting, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Well, Sam, thank you very much as always for joining me.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. And I think we're fine for next Monday. Oh, maybe we're not. We'll be back next week at some point. I'll let you know. Keep an eye on my Twitter at Simon316, Instagram at Simon316, YouTube.com/Report Rules, load of video game stuff up there. All of this is supported by Patreon.com/Simon316. So if you can give me $1, you help me out very much. And yeah, we're gonna, we'll go away for a week. We'll do some video game stuff, and we'll chat to you again very soon.